Okay.
Heard the banging.
Let's call the committee of the whole meeting to order. Tuesday, the 12th of April, 2005, right at 6 o'clock p.m. Councilwoman Wallman is present, Councilwoman Garner, Mr. Porter, Vice Mayor Bell, Mr. Hodge, and Councilman Losner. First item is the approval of the Committee of the Whole Finance, Park, and Recreation Committee meeting minutes of March 15, 2005. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hodge. Questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Losner Park land. I'd like to deviate. Is someone here from the Miami Speedway?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes, I was asked to bring them forward if the council don't object to, there's a conflict in scheduling. Would you come forward? We have the Homestead Miami Speedway track lighting. Curtis.
Close that back door, that glare.
Susan, would you close the door for us?
And glare's
Thank
still
you.
up.
That glare.
The recommendation that the electric utility be allowed to use $320,000 from the R&I fund to cover the cost of material and labor to provide and install the required infrastructure for the Homestead Miami Speedway track lighting project. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor and Council, it's recommended that electric utility be allowed to use, and we have to make this adjustment, be allowed to use $320,000 from our R&I fund to cover the cost of material and labor to install the infrastructure that we're going to need to service the lights as they go up. This was not a budgeted item in the regular O&Ms, but we do have the R&I funds for this, and one of the things it's for. And but we do need approval to use that for the R&I, from the R&I.
I'll move it, Mayor.
Moved by Mr. Porter, second by the Vice Mayor. Questions?
Question, Mayor.
Mr. Losner?
I see in the memorandum that was distributed that the code requires that if we make this advance to install this ancillary equipment for the project, that the cost be recovered over, I guess, a 4-year period, and your analysis does that. But does the placement and the furnishing of this ancillary equipment, is that something we're required to do, we've agreed to do, that code says we'll do? I mean, on these shopping center projects, I would think there would be similar circumstances. Are we providing this type of infrastructure for these other projects that may require it, or how did we come to be in a position to furnish this at our expense?
Well, I'll make a statement to that, and then I have Ken here that can also, Ken's been working the project, but in this case, we did not have the additional ability, the infrastructure, have the capacity to service the lighting that's going to go on out there, so we had to increase the infrastructure there. In Ken, and any of the parking, so I don't misspeak, at any of the other developments we're doing, and we have similar issues?
You know, anybody that's located, that's either our customer or located within our service territory, if they need load, we have an obligation to serve. We do look at, does the revenue that we're going to get from the infrastructure that we put in, is it going to be cost effective to put in that infrastructure? And so we look at a formula for contribution to native construction. And basically what the formula says that the estimated revenues over a 4-year period will be equal to or greater than the capital infrastructure cost. When I did the revenue estimates for this, the numbers I used were provided by M&E Engineering, which is the consulting engineer for the track. And they based it on what they'd seen at other tracks. And the estimated 4-year revenue on the numbers they gave me was $419,000, which does exceed what our estimated capital costs are going to be at this time.
Well, yeah, and you did answer my basic question is, you know, how do we come to be the ones to bear this expense? And that's, I guess, just part of the cost of having our own utility, that if someone builds a project, we have to provide that ancillary equipment in order for them to power it. And I think you did answer my other question, and looking here, that was the loads were projected at 20 days a year for 10 hours a day. And to me, that seemed to be kind of optimistic, the 10 hours a day. I mean, I know it gets dark earlier in November when they have the big race, but that would almost have the lights on all night for the 3 or 4 night weekend. But these numbers were utilized based upon what happens at other similar facilities.
Well, but I don't think the engineers' calculations included a demand charge, which we'll have. Am I speaking correctly there, Ken? Yeah.
Actually, it's a demand customer, so there's two components to our revenues. Part of it is energy and part of it is demand. And actually, in this instance, the demand portion is twice as much as the energy portion. And I backed out all of the energy costs out of the equation, and if the estimated loads are the loads that the engineers say they're going to be, which are 3.5 megawatts, and they turn the lights on, I use this load 3 months out of the year, just for 1 day, just the demand charges alone will meet the equation for the contribution made of construction.
Thank you.
Yeah. What the guy say at that
switch on?
But yeah, the guy that tried to assassinate Roosevelt, when they zapped him, he said, "Push it a button." Curtis, push it a button. But, okay, I just because that is not an insubstantial amount of money, and I just wanted to be sure that we were covered. Now, let's say we did this for somebody else, just for our information. What if the projections were low, or a factory was built and then they went out of business? Do we have any means by which we can, after the fact, if the numbers don't meet the threshold levels, do we have some sort of recourse to recapture the differential?
Our code does not really address that, but I can foresee that we could ask for a letter that, yes, these revenue estimates will be made, and if after the 4-year period they're not made, the customer makes up the difference in the cost.
Now, certainly it wouldn't be the entire cost, just the part that was not recaptured. And without getting off track too much here, and wearing my utilities hat, we may have these very same issues as the Park of Commerce is developed as a Park of Commerce, that we may have some of that. That's FPL. Okay.
Unfortunately, that's not our customer.
So this may be the one and only, unless on the west side, if we have some light manufacturing in the industrial area, that potentially there.
Speaking with David, Mr. Losner, he says that our code makes some provision or room. We have space to actually recover some of that additional. Dave, you might want to.
Like in this situation, we can have Motorsports confirm in writing that if there's a shortfall between these projections and the actual revenue, they will pay to the city that amount of the shortfall. That would be recommended to do in this matter, just to make sure there's no misunderstanding or shortfall that affects the city utility.
Okay. Thank you, Kurt and Ken. Thank you. I think you answered my questions.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Good questions, and I don't have a problem with the letter, but I think that what we're doing is the cost of doing business at the track, and I look forward to the nighttime lighting. I think it's very exciting. It's going to bring a whole new venue to our city, and we are becoming, I heard the name Homestead over and over and over again on TV, on national TV, so that was very exciting to me, what's happening out at the track. So I would heartily recommend yes.
Thank you.
That's a question, Mayor.
Mr. Porter?
Ken, Mr. Conkle, this is a city-owned facility, correct? Now, does the code address anything with regards to city-owned facilities?
No.
So, it's a gray area to begin with, because in essence, you're running infrastructure out to your own facility, although it's a long-term leased facility, it still is the city-owned facility, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Any other questions? There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Curtis.
We didn't get to hear him speak.
Item 2 on the agenda is the Losner Park Land Acquisition Grant and Resolution.
Mr. Mayor and Council's recommendation of staff, the adoption of the resolution supporting the Losner Park Land Acquisition Grant application. While we have already bought, which was the Jesse Gooman building, if you'll recall, at 26 Northwest 1st Street, this will enable the city to recover a portion, I think approximately 55% of the cost that we laid out to purchase that building if we receive this grant.
I'll move it, Mayor.
Moved by the Vice Mayor, second by Councilman Hodge. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? GASB 34 Condition Assessment Report.
Mr. Mayor, I would say 3, 4, and 5 have been pulled from the agenda. We need a little further clarification on the staff's part. 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4.
Okay.
Are they pulled or just deferred?
We're pulling them for now. They'll come back at another more.
Item 6 is the Vision Council Lease and Resolution.
Mr. Mayor, before you, you have a staff's recommendation that the City Council authorize the execution of a lease agreement between the City of Homestead and Vision Council, continuing the practice we've had for a number of years. It's a 5-year contract. It's the $1 a year. However, we do have a clause in there for either party on a 180-day notice that we can terminate the agreement. So there's flexibility also built into the contract over the 5-year period.
Moved by Mr. Porter, second by Ms. Wellman.
I have a question.
Vice Mayor?
Kurt, what specifically, I mean, we always see Vision Council, we hear them speak about, what specifically does Vision Council do for the City of Homestead that we give them a $1 a year lease?
Well, Vision Council's somewhat of our economic development arm. If you liken it to Beacon Council for the county, Vision Council does that job for us. Of course, probably because you aren't aware, as where I'm going with this, probably of much that they do. We really haven't had the big business influx into here. I do know that they have in the past done a number of things. They've worked with us on the BRAC, working with us on base issues, the joint land use study they're doing. They did work for the Defense Alliance for the county, again, on the base. When Bob was here, Anderson, they brought in industries, the boating industries, and brought those people together in several meetings. Many of them didn't know the other really existed in there, and they could work with each other because someone did tops, someone else did a boat, someone else did controls and those kinds of things. It brought all those people together. There's been a number of businesses that have contacted them that they brought to the city to look at different areas as well as within the city, showing them around. We had the Chinese interests come in, and they came in and they entertained them over the weekend and took them around, showed them areas. So it's those kinds of activities.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Finance Committee item, discussion on the internal auditor. I asked that this be brought to the table. Most of you are aware that when the Charter Review Committee brought back recommendations, one was the establishment of an internal auditor's position in the City of Homestead. And as a result of that, I think a year and a half ago, Ms. Wallman and the Management Committee brought forth a recommendation for the appointment of an internal auditor, which is an accounting firm by the name of...
Brown Associates.
Yes. And I think they conducted a review of the customer service department, I think, and brought forth a report on customer service at about a $60,000 figure, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know how many departments we have in the city, but if you add it up, it would be an astronomical figure. We were to conduct an internal audit of all of the various departments of the city, which is something we may want to do, this council may want to direct. And what I wanted to do was to get some feedback from council, whether we should proceed with the firm or seriously look at hiring someone full-time to provide this service, as the voters have requested that we do, and I think it's critical that we do it. Hire someone to deal with the issue of internal auditing for the city of Homestead, I think at a cost that we all feel comfortable with, because I know when you dish it out there to these firms, you really have no control on the costs. Here, if you have an individual working full-time for the council, now this internal auditor reports to the mayor and council, I think we can control costs and still accomplish what I think the intent of the internal auditor position was, to provide ongoing services, to do the internal audit and controls, and let us know there's accountability, there's checks and balances here in the city of Homestead. So I just brought it to the table for discussion because I know the staff is waiting for some direction. My position is, I think if we advertise and put a job specification out there for this position, someone with a CPA and got just a myriad of experience and background, internal auditing or just auditing period, I think we can get someone that day in and day out that this council can meet and put some specific assignment before this person and let them carry out the responsibility of the internal auditor. So I just wanted to get the council input on it and get some feedback and give the manager some direction.
Mayor?
Mr. Porter and Mr. Long.
One of the things that I'd like to see us be able to address through an audit position possibly, besides just the financial aspects of recounting the numbers, I think there's opportunities to look at the operational side of the way we do business, not just the end financial numbers. There may be procedural issues that could be rectified or cleaned up that might end up saving us a lot of money at the end of the road. And that would be one of the things that I'd like to be able to see us do with a position, if you may, Mayor, to go in and not just look at the financial numbers, but look at how we do business internally inside an organization, inside the city, and maybe the savings from that possibly would be so much more beneficial than just reviewing a set of numbers that are being produced, because that, I think, over time would be where I'd like to see us be able to get some help. Because as the board of directors, we're not in the day-to-day operations of the departments, and that's where I'd like to see us see if we could, almost like send a scout in to see what's going on. So I agree with your position. Not as much financial, because I think we've got a good financial audit review. We've been getting good financial numbers back, clear, precise numbers, but we don't know if we're able to save money on the opposite side. So I'd like to see us incorporate something like that into a process if we could. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Good comments. Mr. Blosner?
Thank you, Mayor. As chair of that charter review committee that brought that forward, I think my perspective certainly was, and my feeling is that probably a majority of the charter review committee's perspective was, that perhaps that position would have been an in-house position. And I believe that the way the charter provision is crafted even gives us the opportunity to have that on a case-by-case basis. It's not even necessarily required to be a full-time position. My recollection is that perhaps some prior finance director was more resistant to someone being full-time. It was looked at as more of a ferreting out financial impropriety versus giving us some consulting work on how we can do things better and more cost effectively. And I'm not asking anybody from the finance office to address any of that now. I think that's how that position perceived in the past, and I hope that we're beyond that. And certainly my perspective would be is that I think it would be better to have an individual who's here and lives and breathes the city on a daily basis rather than the very expensive firm that we started out with. And I'd like us to look at even someone on a full-time, part-time basis just to begin to look at our, as Mr. Porter suggested, look at our overall operations. I mean, certainly the auditor that we have now took a detailed look at utilities customer service and came back with a very damning report. And I don't know what good has come from those findings at this point, but we spent a lot of money to, I think, Kurt, forgive me if the numbers are wrong, we spent $50,000 to find out we needed a $45,000 phone system that we already knew we needed. So, again, Mayor, I think I'm in accord with you that we should probably revisit the staffing of that position.
Thank you, Mr. Laws. Any other comments? And I think it's critical that we look at, as Mr. Porter said, internal controls, policies, and procedures. I know some of you talked about implementing a requirement for licenses in some areas. How could we not only reduce costs, but there may be ways we can generate additional revenues through looking at how we do business. There's a lot that this person can do for us. Ms. Wallman?
Yes, Mayor Warren. Again, I have no problem with having an internal auditor, but I just want to say that I think it would be a difficult position for that person to be in, to be at the water cooler with people that they're supposed to be not investigating, but at least looking into the active workings of their department. You know, I don't know how we could get around that, but even though we think that wouldn't happen, that's human nature. That is going to happen. When one department knows that the internal auditor is looking at that department and they're going to be looking into things that maybe they're doing right, maybe they're doing wrong, things that they could cut back on, things that they could change. You know, I agree that the cost is prohibitive for us to, you know, spend $50,000 or $60,000 every time we want to do an internal search into a budget or the police department or many other things. So I just want to put that on the record, and I think we should be very cautious about that and perhaps put that person in a position or in an office away from the everyday hubbub of the city, because I think that would make it very difficult for that person, no matter who it is.
Thank you, Ms. Wall. Ms. Garner, and then the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe we shouldn't think about it so much as an internal auditor, because I'm more interested in how each department works, what they could do within the department to be more efficient, and how they could communicate within each department. Maybe we can do things, you know, code enforcement needs development services. Maybe we need an efficiency person to work between the groups and within each department, not some snitch in each department auditing them.
Thank you.
But in-house would be good.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Well, this is getting scary because Amanda just jumped into my mind, because I was going to say exactly that.
From either perspective,
That could be very good, right, Amanda? I was thinking the same thing. We need to refocus on how we're thinking about this, because it's not about, when we say the word auditor, we think of finance. I think rather, even though it's called auditor, internal auditor, it's basically a review of those particular areas and departments, and just simply, what can we do better? And we all know there's always something that we can do better. No matter how well we are doing, there's always something that we can do a little bit better and improve. And, you know, we see some of the areas in our city, we see them improving, and we know that they need improvement, but there are so many little things, and sometimes just a fresh person, a fresh look, a person coming in and looking fresh, and you're looking at that department with your same eyes. Somebody comes in, they're like, oh, it's just that new, fresh look, and I think definitely it should be internal, and what is the most cost-effective for the city, and that would obviously be internal. And I'm going to give you a quick example of what I was thinking about, because John's sitting right there. during the last election cycle, I went into the newsletter because I think I actually had enough money for an ad, and poor campaign. And I went in and I asked the newsletter, because the paper comes out on Tuesday, and came in with a fresh, thinking. I don't know the newspaper business, and I said, your paper comes out on Tuesday and the election is Tuesday. Why don't you do a special Monday edition, and then that way you get a whole bunch of more ads on Monday for Tuesday in anticipation of Tuesday's election. And they all went, oh, that's a really good idea. We never thought of that. Well, it was just a new person walking in the door giving them a new idea that they had never thought of before, and that's what an internal auditor would do. That was just my way of explaining what an internal auditor would do. Fresh eyes to look into different departments. What are we doing that we can do better, even if we're doing well?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Is there a motion that we move to make it an internal position, and then I'll ask the Management Review Committee with staff to put together a job description and bring back for council approval?
I'll make the motion, Mayor. I'll make that.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Porter, second by Mr. Losner. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 2 on the finance item is the Renaissance Substation.
Mr. Mayor and Council, it's staff's recommendation that Burns & McDonnell be retained to provide the engineering and design and project management services for the new Renaissance station and the transmission lines that are going to be associated with that station. Burns & McDonnell is on our group of already pre-approved people. It's reflected under our, I should say, professionals' help, which is approved under RFQ 2403. You always see that. That's somebody that's been pre-approved when we went through that process. It's been very helpful to us. Burns & McDonnell is also doing the Redlands substation as well. And by having them, we really probably will be working concurrently, those two stations. And by having Ken and his group have figured out by having them work concurrently, there's some savings involved in that, and approximately $112,000 that they think they can save by having Burns & McDonnell concurrently handling both projects moving forward. So we think it's a good thing to do.
I'll move the recommendation with a question there.
Moved by Mr. Porter, second by Mr. Hodge. Mr. Porter?
Just one more thing, we've been calling this Redlands and Renaissance Substation. It doesn't mean, of course, I mentioned today, Renaissance is hard to spell if we're going to live with that name, the whole time. So if anybody wants to rename these stations, we have an opportunity to rename these substations. Just under construction, that's what we're...
I think we should rename.
Just a thought, the Renaissance PUD had changed its name to Oasis, so that's a much shorter word if you wanted to. So we're tying it kind of to that development. Oasis is much smaller.
We need to put Humpty Dumpty Park on that list too.
How about learn how to spell Renaissance?
From the Entrepreneurial Center when we were doing that for the incubator.
Yeah, it's hard to get those signs right when you send them out. But anyway, just a thought when we talk about those, but I just, not to get us off track. But just,
now give me some comfort. I know when we started out with the substation, there was a report that blackouts, critical time frames by which is are we on target and meeting our
yes, and I'll let
time frame for?
Ken's been working out. Let him give you a little bit of an update.
Yeah, we're currently on schedule. We have Burns & Mac has already done some preliminary looks at the second substation, which is the Renaissance. We came up with a completion date of mid-2006, which we believe that we're right on track to meet that. And our drop dead date on these were actually the end of 2006, because that's when our new contract with Progress Energy goes into effect, and we need the transformation capacity to be able to bring that energy into the system.
How will that fall in line with the opening of the new hospital that would need that? You're talking about the end of 2006, and they're planning on opening...
We will serve the hospital from current infrastructure. We actually wish that the second substation was a little bit ahead of schedule. But when the hospital goes into service, they've given us they're going to need a permanent service in September, and we will feed them off of one of the existing feeders. And then when the second substation is built, there will be another feeder that will be brought into the hospital, which will be their primary feed, and the existing feeder that we will have going there now will be their secondary feed. In all honesty, it would be better if we were ahead of schedule on these substations, but we're not.
Mayor, that was
Mr. Porter?
That was my question, Ken. By tasking this one group with both stations, is that going to overload them in any way to make them have a reason to slow down?
Not at all. In fact, it'll speed up the process. They're a large engineering firm, and they're going to run parallel.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 3 is the engineering services for preparation of capacity analysis, report, wastewater treatment plan, and resolution.
Mr. Mayor and Council, again, staff's recommendation that Council approves the proposed engineering services for the preparation of a capacity report, a capacity analysis report for a wastewater treatment plant. And Hazen and Sawyer is the company that has been selected to do that, and they're also part of the 2403 RFP agreement, so they've already been approved under our RFP. Again, you know, we're getting a lot of expansion, so we're moving quickly here to stay on top of how much capacity we're going to need in the future. And normally, as I talk to Julio, who's my backup here if I miss something, when you reach about 75% capacity, you need to look at the study and study about increasing capacity. We're just about there. But I think we're ahead of the curve there. This company will come in and look at each component of the treatment plant and look where, say, the weakest link or the bottleneck in and the amount of capacity that we can treat. It's possible that we may be able to get our wastewater treatment plant re-looked at and regraded. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Regraded. When we built ours, it was such new technology, there was not a lot of existing data on grading and what grade that would reach in terms of their capacity. There's a possibility based on now the amount of data we have based on operation that they can come in and look at that, and instead of being 6 million gallons a day, we might be 6.5 million gallons a day. We pick up that half a mil rating just by them coming in and looking at the system. Working concurrently with this on another project you approved is our infiltration and inflow study and work that's going. Well, the study's been done, and now the work is being done to as we identify those spots where we're having infiltration of water, which we're treating that we shouldn't be treating, and fixing those cracks in the pipes and doing those kinds of things that will also have the opportunity to add capacity to our plant. So we're doing everything to prepare because, as we all know here, the velocity with which our growth has occurred here was way beyond most people's expectations. So we want to get ahead of the game so we're not, and we feel we are ahead of the game in this. And Julio, can you have something to add, or Mike?
Just to give council a comfort level, we have capacity for about 5,500 units. So the studies Carter is talking about, we're just really ahead of the curve, just proper planning to go for expansion, and it has many legs, and Care talk about all these things. So we identify capacity for the ultimate built out, and all these things, I&I, prorating the existing treatment plan, and then the additional new capacity are part of what we will be looking at. And Julio is going to be talking to them about an expansion of the wastewater treatment plant because it has to be approved by the Environmental Control Board. So we're putting all these steps together to approach it properly.
Mike, you said 5,500 units, that's new?
Additional units,
Additional units, Mr. Lawson.
Well, and just Mayor and Council, and I don't know if you have this, kind of some of the talk that's been occurring lately, is that while wastewater treatment and capacity is not the high-profile, glamorous issue that roads may be, probably that issue is more important in the development community than our roads. And I will tell you that in our lengthy conversations on the 93 agreement, that has been a major issue and concern as to available capacity for what's been approved for the DRI and all of the others, and who's getting there first. And that is a major issue. And to the extent that we do not have capacity to serve the units that may be built under current approvals, we as a city will pay very dearly to send that excess amount to the county for treatment. So it is a long-term, and not only for the development community but for the city, a very significant financial issue that we have a handle on this capacity.
I'll move it.
The way the capacity works, and Mr. Losner is absolutely right, and when we go to the county to ask for additional capacity, if the county turn it down, then they have to provide the additional capacity. But instead of dealing with us, the developers will be dealing with the county to pay county impact fees and stuff like that. And this is what happened after 93 when the treatment plant reached its capacity, the old treatment plant. Between 93 and 99, people were going to WASA and paying capacity to WASA because we were above our capacity in terms of flow. And when we started experiencing the growth, actually there was a meeting in Kurt's office with all the principals of these firms came to talk to Kurt, and that was the subject discussion, capacity. And we assured them that we have in-house capacity, and if the county doesn't allow us, they have to provide the capacity, and if they allow us to expand, they would be asked to buy capacity up front. If they need 1 million gallons of capacity for their projections, they have to buy it up front, so they up front the capital cost.
What about impact fees? Is that capacity factored in the impact fee analysis that we do? Or should we take a look at it?
The impact fee we charge now was based actually wastewater impact fees. We charge now was actually based on the actual construction cost of our treatment plant plus cost of living each year.
Any other questions? Got a motion by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilwoman Garner. Any further questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 4 is bid 200514 Southwest 4th Street Parking Lot Project.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is the corner, and correct me if I'm wrong, corner on Southwest 4th Street and 2nd Avenue.
Across, yes, from the fish market.
Across from the fish market that had the big tree there, I think,
yes,
there before. That we have got the bid out to build the parking lot there. There'll be 15 parking spaces, and this will be funded from TIF money. It's been in the process for some time now.
I'll move this, Mayor.
Moved by Councilwoman Wallman, second by Vice Mayor Bell. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 5 is the demolition of 26 Northwest 1st Street.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is the demolition of the Gooman building, which we obtained and heard about earlier on the grant request at 26 Northwest 1st Street. We recommend awarding the bid to the overall lowest and the most responsive bidder, which was Absolute Demolition. You have the tally sheets on the back. Once they get the building demolished and taken away, they plan to resod that whole area with grass.
I'll move it.
I have a question, Mayor.
Moved by Mr. Porter. Can I get a second?
Second.
Question. Second by Ms. Garner. Question, Ms. Wallman.
Yes, I have a question to the manager. Of course, I'm always for the lowest bid, but at the same time, this seems to be a significant amount lower than the next highest. And I'm wondering if you've had any experience with this company. Do we know anything about the company as far as the history or their reliability?
Brian make a comment.
Ms. Wallman, members of council. No, we actually had no prior dealings with this company as far as doing business with them. They have bid on other jobs when we were doing other demolitions. We have all their information, their insurance, their licensing and everything like that, so it does qualify them. They've provided every bit of information that we required, so we have no reason to believe otherwise.
Excellent.
Okay.
It's a big difference in price, so I was...
Yeah, we were kind of puzzled by the offset of the price, but like I said, everything that they provided us was above board as far as their insurance and everything like that.
This is a fairly small job, so we can certainly test the waters with this one, I think.
I just want to note something else. We did stipulate in the contract that the company that's doing the demolition will actually coordinate with the next door neighbor. Dan, I don't know if you want to elaborate on this further, so that there's a balance so we don't disrupt the next door business and stuff like that, just the same.
The restaurant adjoins the Gooman building, so we're going to work with the business owner during lunch hours to not disrupt his business.
Oh, that's very nice. I like to hear that. You don't want to take away from their revenue or their profit, so that's good. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can we have a demolition ribbon cutting? A tear down cutting?
It is planned, yes, we do have one planned. I haven't got a date yet.
Instead of shovels, we use sledgehammers.
We're using sledgehammers, yes.
Excuse me, Mayor. I was going to say, I bet this council would do it for free. Stress.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Park and Recreation item, Councilwoman Roman.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. As all of you know, in our City Parks Master Plan, the city had orchestrated approval for the reallocation of $950,000 of the Safe Neighborhood Parks dollars, and $200,000 of those were specifically designated to the renovation of Whitcott Park. Additional funds in the amount of $200,000 are pending approval from the Florida Recreation Department Assistance Program. In order for us to implement all of this, we're asking, or staff recommends, that the City Council authorize the manager to execute an agreement with Bamilio Hajamo, is that correct, Kurt?
B&A.
For development of a park master plan for Whitcott Park at the cost of $31,500. We do have those funds available from the Parks and Recreation Residential Impact Fee, and this plan, we just don't want to hodgepodge these parks. We want to make sure that these parks are done in a very structured, sophisticated 21st century plan. So we want to make sure that we have experts doing it, and we have proposed to have 2 tennis courts, 2 basketball courts, playground area, picnic shelters, parking area, walking path, outdoor racquetball facilities, lighting, and landscaping. And all of those things would be included with the schemes with the master plan construction cost estimates and how we can evaluate what we're going to do, timing as far as when we're going to buy the equipment, timing as to when we're going to put the pathways in. So all of this comes under, it's like the little entity under the big park master plan. So I'm asking that we approve this, Mayor.
You're the chair. You just asked for...
Oh, you turned it over to me. Oh, all right. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll move it.
Okay, Mayor Warren moved and Mr. Porter seconded. All in favor?
The Vice Mayor have a question.
So do I.
Judy, how big is this particular park? What's the acreage?
Marlene, what is the acreage for Whitcott? I didn't bring my master plan book with me.
Approximately 8 to 9 acres.
8 to 9 acres. And everybody knows where Whitcott Park is, right? It's over by across from Homestead Middle School on 6th Avenue. Yeah.
Okay.
North of 8th Street,
Okay. No, I didn't know.
where the water tower
You
is.
didn't know?
Okay.
Just north of 8th Street where the big water tower is, and right now there's a pavilion there with the
Yes.
mosaic tile, and we did a project with Defiant, and we had the hand, this was about 3 or 4 years ago, I think, and we had the hand, they put all their handprints in. But I mean, the park really needs to be updated, and all of our parks need to be updated. We have an exciting year planned with all the things that we're going to be doing, but this is just the start, and we just don't, like I said, want to go in there and start putting in a sliding board here or this there. We want to have a structured park where we have the tennis courts, where we have playground activities, where we have structured activities. So that's what this is all about.
How active is that park? I mean, do you get a lot of use from the community at that park? Do we have numbers?
We don't have exact numbers, Mayor. The park is used by a lot of the local residents, but right now there really isn't that much to do at the park. There's a small little playground. There used to be a baseball field there that nobody can really use. In the evenings, it's vandalized, so we've been working with the police department that have been monitoring the situation for us, and we feel that if we really get the neighbors involved, we'll have a meeting with all of the people in the surrounding areas and see what they would like to have in that park. And I think once it's upgraded, once it's enhanced, we will see the community at large really utilize that park.
So prior to construction, we will have a general idea what the
Yes, Mayor.
neighborhood would like to see happen.
Yes, Mayor. We will go out to the community. We'll have sort of like a town hall meeting where we'll give them some ideas, somewhat similar to what we did with the senior center when we went around to the seniors and to others to see what they really needed. We're going to do the same thing for Whitcop.
Are we approaching any time deadlines on the grant, the use of the grant funds?
No, Mayor. In fact, part of this is $200,000 on a FERDAP grant, and according to Bob Levy, we look very positive to be able to get that FERDAP grant. So combined with the Safe Neighborhood Parks Bond and the impact dollars that we're spending for this master plan, we should have a very nice park with approximately $400,000 invested into it.
Mr. Losner.
Yes, thank you, Judy. I want to ask the chair, and maybe if somebody else wants to pitch in from the staff level, is this a master plan or is this a design plan?
It's basically a design plan, master plan. They will come back with some recommendations after talking to the community at large, what they feel should really go into Whitcop Park.
That's my concern, and I don't remember which one it was earlier, and I expressed my concerns that we were being consulted to death and spending all of our improvement money on consultants, and we got $200,000 for Whitcop Park, and we're spending $35,000 off the top to come up with a master plan. I'm glad to hear that we're going to go out to the community, and maybe council can have some input and have some meetings with the community, because I'd really hate to see us kind of even, to make sure that we're not duplicating what maybe is going on over at James Arthur Smith Park, and, look at it in terms of, I know there used to be a little baseball field there, maybe that can supplement if there's spillover usage from J.D. Red Park, that, in addition to being a little neighborhood park, that it can supplement some of our others as well for some of those activities, at least part of the year.
Councilman Losner, this is also for design. When we get the input from the community, part of one of their tasks is the full design. And the $31,500 we're not taking out of the grant money, because the Safe Neighborhood Parks bond dollars is basically for bricks and mortar. So we're utilizing some of our impact dollars for the design and construction drawings for the park.
It's just every time I turn around, we have to have somebody tell us what we need to do rather than sitting down, amongst ourselves and with the community, and then having someone do the design for what we would want to have. That's just.
Well, I think, Mr. Lott, that's a good point, but I think what we need to see is the overall picture, and we had Gliding Jackson do the overall master plan. They make the suggestions. We've set for hours with Parks and Recs and Marlene and I, talking about how we want to, what we'd like to see east and west and here and there, and we need to take the parks one by one, because some of our parks are very small. Some of our parks are very small, and in this one we do have 8 to 9 acres. Marlene, you wanted to say something?
Some of our parks, you're right, Councilwoman, are small, that we ourselves in-house can conceptually put on a piece of paper, you're going to put a bench here, you're going to put a swing there, but when you get into design of ball fields or tennis courts or anything, you need actual construction drawings.
And also, I think we wanted to see, you know, on the west side, we have the Homestead James Archer Smith Park, which that's turned into, I mean, I can't believe the people that walk over there every single morning and noontime and evening time. You know, we have the tot lots as well, but it's primarily turned into like a vital course almost, you know, I mean, and that's wonderful that we have that. But I think having bringing the tennis courts west and bringing it into especially that kind of community where they have something more than just a picnic table or a bench, or, you know, we talk about the vandalism, you know, isn't that a shame? But if you want to bring your, you know, if you want to make a community proud, then you have to involve the community. And just like when we had the meeting 2 weeks ago at the Senior Citizen Center, and we involved each and every one of the seniors that were there, and they wanted to speak, we gave them time to talk, and they expressed things that were very important to them, and we listened, and the architect listened as well. So, and I agree, I mean, you get tired of being beat to death with, you know, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, but I think in this case, with this particular park, and with the problems we've had, and Chief Roll, you might want to comment on it, but with the problems that we've had, I mean, that's where Officer Rivera was shot right down the street, right? You know, I mean, you know, we want to make sure that we're raising the caliber of the neighborhood as well as raising the caliber of our parks. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
After that, after you're through with that, I just have a question.
Motion carried.
May I just ask a question on the heels of, to talk about the walking path over at James Archer Smith Park. On a daily basis, I get people talking about the surface not really being that good. I don't know. I haven't been over there. I know it's an asphalt walkway, and some of the comments are it could be a little bit wider, and it's got some surface problems. Now, I know in-house we can do certain things with asphalt. Is there any way maybe that at a subsequent meeting you could kind of give us an idea of what it would be if we just did a minimal improvement to that walkway? And I don't know if you have anything on the table at this time that you're dealing with.
Councilman Porter, we have on the drawing board vast changes that we anticipate making at that particular park. You know, amending the walkways, putting new stations. We're going to put our signature city lighting in the park, landscaping. We're really going to make that a beautiful park. And part of that walkway will all be redesigned and resurfaced. We'll take a look to see what we can do on a temporary basis to any of those portions that may, you know, need quick attention right now.
Well, I know that there's a substantial amount of work in all the parks, and I know that anything that we would do there would probably need to be a temporary fix while we get everything up to speed, and that's why maybe it could be a decision that we would find out what would be the cost of a temporary fix as opposed to waiting 2 years, if it may be, or 3 years, or a year till you can do the overall improvement to the park. That was all I was suggesting.
We'll take a look at that, Councilman Porter, to see what we can do on a temporary basis.
And if I might say, we're going to be meeting, our Parks and Recs Department, we're going to be meeting and doing a timeline so that you'll be having, your questions will be answered as far as, you know, when do you expect to see changes in James Archer Smith? When do you expect to see changes in the Audubon Park? When will things start to happen Humpty Dumpty Park? So we're working on that, right? Yes. We're working on a timeline.
In fact, we put all that into our project software, and we will be putting out a schedule for all the mayor and council to see what is planned, construction timelines, where the money will be coming from, and you know, completion dates.
And also just to add one more thing, we'll be having neighborhood workshops in all the communities that we plan changes in the parks. We're going to plan one for Audubon, we're going to plan one for Wicop, going to plant them all over. So I'm going to be busy this summer, but we're going to do that because we want to hear what the community wants rather than just what the design people say. So.
I think this is the first opportunity that we really had some dollars to put into the parks. Thanks to all the builders and the impact dollars, and also special thanks to the Safe Neighborhood Parks bond people for reallocating that $950,000 so that we can utilize it in 4 of our parks. So we're really looking forward to a lot of changes. And we're going after more grants.
I was going to say, Colleen, we're going after more.
We haven't stopped. We're going after more dollars.
Well, thank you all very much. Any non-agenda item, Mr. Losner?
No, thank you.
Mr. Hodge?
No, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Bell?
Yes. I just want to tell you I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, so you're not, guys aren't allowed to do anything for the next 2 years except for 2 years.
Plan on staying?
For the next 2 years, except for normal business. That's it. Oh, I'm going to South Africa.
None of our business is long.
That's true.
Headed to South Africa. I told her to bring everybody a gift back, everybody in the audience and everybody up here.
Under $25, right, Mayor?
Mr. Porter, any non-agenda items?
Just want everybody to say a prayer for the manager, myself, and Scott Kennedy and Joe Villalonga. We're heading to Tallahassee tomorrow to try to bring back some security money. So we got smacked in the mouth last time, but we're gonna stay the course and make them back with a black eye. But we're going.
There you go.
Good.
We wish you well.
Yeah, good luck.
Ms. Garner?
No business, thank you.
Ms. Rowland?
Just one quick question. Julio, in the Villages of Homestead, we started replacing all those storm drains and everything. I've had a lot of phone calls. Any update on that?
Well, right now there was a delay in that particular part of the project because there were some conflicts that were brought about by the contractor when they started digging with some existing utilities. The engineers are now looking at the drawings, making sure that they adjust the drawings properly so that we don't hit those existing utilities. In the meantime, we're taking care of the other sites that were part of the project and trying to do the work on the ones that don't have any issues. And once those plans are redesigned, we'll get back on those particular areas.
And another question I had was, are you going to be tearing up sidewalks, and if so, will they be replaced and the grass resodded, or what's the story on that?
Yes, we anticipate that there is going to be some disruption of existing sidewalks and asphalt streets, etc. All those will be returned to better than existing conditions, including sod, landscape, everything. We've taken pictures of everything before the work was started, so we know what the existing conditions were in case there's any issues with the contractor regarding that.
Perfect. I hope all of you heard that in the Villages of Homestead. But we're not on. We'll say that again next Monday night.
Well, I think the concern, Ms. Walmer, was trying to get it done before the rainy season.
Yes, many
because
people.
Because of the flooding in the villages, so. That's what we're planning. Oh, okay. And I have no business. Mr. Manager,
None, Mayor.
Any business? Any business from the audience? Any business from the audience? If not, thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you again.